You have seen him before, half man and half fish, a merman god rising out of the sea. This is Dagon, the fish god of the Philistines. At least, that is the story you have been told. It is in old paintings. It is in fantasy novels. It is even in some Bible footnotes. But there is one problem, only one. It is not true. Dagon was never a fish god. The real Dagon was something far older, far greater, and far more dangerous to Israel. This is the story of a god who claimed to feed the world, and the night he fell on his face in his own temple. To find the real Dagon, we leave the coast. We travel north and east. We go back more than 1,000 years before the Philistines. We arrive in Syria. Here, in cities like Ebla and Mari, we find his name carved in clay, Dagon. And the clay tells the truth. His name means grain, not fish. Grain, wheat, bread, the food that keeps people alive. The ancients called him Lord of the land. They called him the Father of the gods. Kings bowed to him. Sargon the Great said Dagon gave him his empire. At a city called Tuttle, rival kings met in Dagon's temple to swear their treaties. To these people, Dagon was the source of life itself. He filled the fields. He filled the granaries. He fed the children. Without his grain, you starved. His temples were not small. At Ugarit, his house was a thick stone tower. Smoke from the altars rose over the whole city. Everyone could see it. Everyone gave thanks for the bread on the table. Even the storm god, Baal, was called his son. Baal, son of Dagon. The grain god was the old father. The rain god was the young hero. Together, they promised the harvest. So this was Dagon, not a monster from the deep. A father, a provider, the god of bread. Now the story moves to the sea. Around the time of the Judges, a new people landed on Israel's coast, the Philistines. They came from across the water, from the world of the Aegean. They were warriors, raiders, strangers to the land. But the land does not easily feed strangers. To survive, they had to farm. And to farm, they needed the god of the soil. So they did something clever. They did not bring their own gods and force them on the people. They took the local god instead. They took Dagon. But they changed him. The gentle father of grain became a god of war. When the Philistines won a battle, they thanked Dagon. When they took a trophy, they hung it in his temple. They even hung the head of King Saul in the house of Dagon. The god of bread now fed on victory. We can still see his temples in the ground. At Tel Kazal, archaeologists found a Philistine temple. Its roof rested on two pillars. Two central pillars, set close together on round stone bases. Does that sound familiar? It should. This is the very design of the temple Samson pulled down. Blind Samson reached for two pillars, and the house of Dagon came crashing down on its lord. The Bible and the spade tell the same story. Then came the day Dagon met the living God. Israel went to war with the Philistines. Israel lost, and the Philistines captured the most sacred object in Israel, the Ark of the Covenant, the throne of the Lord on earth. In that age, this was the ultimate victory. When you beat a nation, you capture its God. You carry the trophy home. You set it at the feet of your own God. It meant your God was greater. So the Philistines carried the ark to Ashdod. They walked it into the temple of Dagon. A quick, honest word here. The grand temple of Dagon at Ashdod still lies unexcavated, buried beneath the modern city. We have not put a spade to it yet, but we are not guessing about the rest. We have dug up Philistine temples nearby. We have found Dagon's name carved across the ancient world, and the design of his twin-pillared house is exactly what the Bible describes. The story stands on solid ground. They set it down beside the statue, a captured god, a prisoner of war. They went home for the night. They thought the war in heaven was over, but it was not. It had just begun. Morning came. The priests opened the temple, and there was Dagon, fallen, face down on the ground, bowed before the ark of the Lord, the posture of a slave before a king. They lifted him. They set him back in his place. Surely it was an accident. Surely it would not happen again. The second morning came. Dagon was on the ground again, but this time he was broken. His head was cut off, and his hands were cut off. They lay on the threshold of the door. Only his stump was left. This is not random. In that world, You cut off the head and hands of a beaten enemy. The head was his rule. The hands were his strength. The God of Israel had executed Dagon like a defeated soldier, in his own house, on his own doorstep. And here, at last, is where the fish god was born. Remember the head and hands, broken off? The Hebrew says, only Dagon was left to him. It was a hard line to translate. Centuries later, medieval scholars made a guess. The word Dagon sounds like the Hebrew word for fish. So perhaps they thought, only Dagon was left, only the fish part remained. From one guess grew a legend. The poet John Milton wrote it into Paradise Lost. A god of grain became a monster of the sea. But it was never true. The clay tablets had told us the truth all along. Dagon was bread, not fish. But God was not finished. A sickness fell on Ashdod. Painful tumors spread through the people. The plague moved from city to city. Wherever the ark went, the hand of the Lord went with it. That is what the Hebrew text tells us. And the oldest Greek translation, the Septuagint, tells us something more. Mice, swarms of field mice rising over the land, eating the standing grain and emptying the storehouses. Now hold both pictures together. The Hebrew shows the body struck down. The Greek shows the grain devoured. And the Bible itself confirms it. When the Philistines finally sent the ark home, they sent 2 gifts of gold, 5 golden tumors and 5 golden mice. They cast their 2 plagues in gold. Think about what that means. Dagon was the god of grain. Grain was his name. Grain was his promise. And the God of Israel sent mice to eat the grain. Dagon was built to protect, but he could not protect his own statue. He could not protect his own grain. He could not protect his own people. A grain god who could not save the harvest. A war god who could not save the body. The Philistines knew. Dagon had lost. So the Philistines made a plan to send the ark away, but they wanted to be sure. Was this really the hand of Israel's God, or just bad luck? So they built a test no one could fake. They took 2 milk cows that had never pulled a cart, and they took their calves away from them and shut them up at home. Then they hitched the mothers to a new cart, set the ark on it, and let them go. No driver, no rope, nothing to guide them. Every instinct in those cows said one thing: turn back, go to the crying calves. A mother does not walk away from her young, but the cows did not turn back. They went straight toward Israel, toward the town of Beth Shemesh. And the Bible says they went lowing as they walked, crying out the whole way. Their hearts pulled backward to their calves, but their feet pressed forward on the road. They did not turn to the right or the left. They climbed the hill, still lowing, and they did not stop until the ark was home. And what waited for them at the end of that faithful road? When they arrived, the people broke up the cart for wood and offered the cows themselves as a sacrifice to the Lord. Their reward for perfect obedience was the altar. Now lift your eyes and look ahead. Centuries later, another would walk a road like this. He set his face toward Jerusalem, toward the cross. Everything in him could have turned back. He cried out in the garden. His heart strained against the road, but he did not turn to the right or the left. He went straight, faithfully all the way. And his reward, at the end of that road, was the cross. He became the sacrifice, and this is the road he calls us to walk too. Be faithful, go straight, do not turn aside, even when your heart is breaking, even when everything pulls you back. The Christian life is a faithful walk toward an altar. Our reward is not waiting for us in this world. It is waiting at the end of the road, with him. So why does the Bible tell this story? It is not just to mock a statue. It is to teach Israel one enormous truth. The Lord does not share a shelf. Every other god in that world could be moved, captured, set beside a stronger god, and made into someone's prisoner. But not the God of Israel. You can carry his ark into the enemy's temple, and he will not become a vassal there. He walks into the heart of the enemy's stronghold, and he walks out as the conqueror. This is why Israel made no image of God. You could not carry him off in a wagon. You could not lock him in a treasury. You could not break his head on a threshold. He has no head you can reach. He is the living God, and he cannot be tamed. But there is something deeper still, something tender. Dagon was the god of bread. He promised to feed the world. But he failed. Centuries later, in this same land, a child was born in a town called Bethlehem. The name Bethlehem means house of bread. That child grew up and said simple words. I am the bread of life. Do you see it? The hunger Dagon could never fill, God filled himself, not with a better harvest, but with his own son. Dagon offered grain that mice could eat. God offered bread that never runs out. There is one strange detail left in the story. The priests of Dagon saw their God broken on the threshold. So from that day on, they refused to step on it. They jumped over it for generations. Stop and think about that. They stood at the very spot where their God was proven powerless. And instead of turning to the true God, they built a ritual around the failure. They honored the threshold. They never looked up. We can do the same. We can stand where our idols failed us. The money that did not satisfy, the success that did not save. And instead of turning to the living God, we just step carefully around the ruins. We keep the ritual. We never look up. The God who walked into the temple of Dagon is still walking. He still refuses to share the shelf. And he still offers himself as the bread of life. The only question is whether we will keep leaping over the threshold, or finally bow and be fed. In our next episode, we will enter a darker valley. We will meet a God whose worship demanded the unthinkable, a God of fire, a God who asked for children. His name is Molek, and we will see how far the love of God reaches into the dark.